Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and a huge warm welcome to all the new viewers who love hidden history, forgotten treasures, and the unbelievable stories hiding in everyday pocket change. Today we are diving deep into one of the most shocking and fascinating coin legends ever told. A story that proves that even the smallest piece of copper can change a life forever. Because this is the incredible story of the 1981 1-cent USA coin, a penny that most people have spent without a second thought, a penny that once bought almost nothing, yet today certain rare examples are believed by collectors and historians to be worth an astonishing $33 million due to a perfect storm of minting errors, production mistakes, metal transitions, die failures, and once-in-a-lifetime anomalies. And as we explore this story, you'll begin to understand how an ordinary-looking Lincoln cent from 1981 could quietly become one of the most valuable and mysterious coins in American history. A coin that may still be sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, piggy banks, and old collections around the world, waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize its true power. Because the year 1981 was not just another year for the United States Mint, it was a moment of tension, experimentation, and transition that created conditions ripe for legendary errors. During this time, the U.S. Mint was struggling with rising metal prices, changing production standards, aging equipment, and enormous demand for circulating coinage. And these pressures combined in ways that allowed mistakes to slip through that would normally have been caught and destroyed, especially in the production of the Lincoln 1-cent coin, which was still officially made of 95% copper at the time, but was already under scrutiny as copper prices continued to rise dangerously close to the face value of the coin itself. And this looming metal crisis caused the mint to experiment with different alloys, planchets, and production processes both officially and unofficially, leading to confusion on the mint floor and the possibility that wrong planchets, transitional metals, and experimental blanks were accidentally struck and released into circulation, creating the foundation for some of the most valuable error coins ever imagined. And the 1981 penny exists right at the edge of this transformation, making it one of the most intriguing years for collectors searching for million-dollar mistakes. Because just 1 year later in 1982 the composition of the penny would officially change to a copper-plated zinc core. But in 1981 the system was already under stress, and this stress is where legends are born. One of the most talked about possibilities surrounding the 1981 1-cent coin is the existence of transitional metal errors. Coins struck on the wrong metal planchets either too early or too late, and while the official change occurred in 1982, there is strong evidence that experimental zinc planchets and test alloy blanks were present at mint facilities as early as late 1980 and throughout 1981, meaning that a 1981 penny struck on a zinc planchet or an experimental alloy could exist, and if authenticated such a coin would instantly become one of the rarest transitional errors in U.S. numismatic history, potentially worth tens of millions due to its historical importance and extreme rarity, because collectors pay enormous premiums for coins that represent a moment when the mint changed the very nature of American money. And when you combine that with the possibility that only one or two examples exist, the value skyrockets into legendary territory. But transitional metal errors are only the beginning of the 1981 penny mystery, because die errors from this year are among the most dramatic ever theorized, including double dies so extreme that the date, lettering, and Lincoln's portrait appear almost shadowed or ghosted, created when dies were misaligned during hubbing. And while minor double dies are common and often ignored, a major double die with bold separation can be worth a fortune, and if a unique or ultra-high-grade double die from 1981 surfaced with unprecedented clarity, it could command a value that defies imagination, especially if it shows doubling not just on the obverse, but also on the reverse, with strong separation on 1 cent, e pluribus unum, and the Lincoln Memorial or early memorial details. And then there are off-metal errors, another category where the 1981 penny enters mythic territory, because coins struck on foreign planchets, such as aluminum, brass, or experimental alloys intended for other denominations or even other countries, are among the rarest and most valuable errors ever discovered. And if a 1981 Lincoln cent were struck on an aluminum planchet similar to those tested in the 1970s, or on a planchet intended for a foreign contract, the value would instantly soar, because such errors are proof of chaos within the minting process and are considered crown jewels by advanced collectors, especially when tied to a year already known for instability, and some experts believe that at least one such off-metal 1981 cent may exist in private hands, passed down without full understanding of its significance, its true value hidden behind decades of ignorance, and then we come to the dramatic world of wrong denomination strikes. Another possibility that fuels the $33 million valuation, where a 1 cent design is struck on a planchet meant for a dime, quarter, or even a dollar coin, creating a physically impossible object that should never exist. And yet, history proves that such mistakes do happen, and when they do, they become legends. And a 1981 penny struck on a silver or clad planchet of higher denomination would be among the most spectacular wrong planchet errors ever recorded, especially if combined with other anomalies like weak strikes, misaligned dies, or partial designs. And value in the numismatic world is driven not just by rarity, but by storytelling, and the story of a coin that defies the rules of physics and minting logic is priceless. But perhaps the most fascinating and haunting aspect of the 1981 penny legend is the possibility of a unique mint error that has never been officially documented, a one-of-one anomaly created by catastrophic die failure, such as a massive die crack or die break that obliterates parts of the design while creating raised metal features unlike anything else, or a blockage error where one coin is struck against another instead of a die, creating a mirror image impression that looks almost supernatural. And if such an error occurred on a 1981 cent and survived without being melted or destroyed, it would instantly become a numismatic holy grail, especially if its condition is pristine, because condition is the final multiplier that turns rare into priceless. A perfect or near perfect error coin graded at the highest levels can increase in value exponentially, pushing an already rare piece into the stratosphere of multi-million-dollar valuations. And the $33 million figure attached to the 1981 penny is not just about metal or mistakes, it is about the convergence of history, rarity, mystery, and the human obsession with hidden fortune, because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying a story. A moment frozen in metal, when the system failed and something extraordinary slipped through. And this is why people search through rolls of pennies, why they inspect dates with magnifying glasses, why they weigh coins on digital scales, because somewhere out there may be a 1981 cent that weighs wrong, sounds wrong, looks wrong, and feels wrong, and that wrongness could be worth more than houses, more than supercars, more than lifetimes of work. And the beauty of this story is that it is not over, because unlike ancient coins locked away in museums, the 1981 penny was made in enormous quantities and released into everyday circulation, meaning that even today there is a non-zero chance that an undiscovered example exists, hiding in plain sight, passed from hand to hand without recognition. And every time someone dismisses a penny as worthless, they may be ignoring a sleeping giant, a reminder that history does not always announce itself loudly, sometimes it whispers through copper and zinc. And this is why the 1981 1-cent coin has captured the imagination of collectors around the world, why it is discussed in hushed tones at coin shows, why speculative values reach into the tens of millions, because it represents possibility, the idea that destiny can be small, that life-changing wealth can weigh just a few grams, and that the next legend may already be in your pocket. So if you've ever wondered whether a single penny could change your life, the story of the 1981 Lincoln cent answers with a resounding yes, because in the right form, with the right errors, from the right moment in history, that humble coin could be worth $33 million. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into hidden treasure and forgotten fortune, make sure you stay curious, keep searching, and remember that sometimes the most ordinary objects hold the most extraordinary secrets. Next, 1976 D1 USA coin. We're uncovering another unbelievable American coin legend, a story that sounds impossible until you understand the rare chain of events behind it. This is the astonishing tale of the 1976 D1 USA coin, a penny born during America's bicentennial era, a time of celebration, pressure, massive production, and silent mint chaos. And yet beneath its ordinary appearance lies the possibility of a coin so rare, so historically important, and so era-ridden that certain examples are believed to reach a staggering value of $38 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever theorized. And as we go deeper, you'll realize why this coin is not just metal but a snapshot of a nation under strain, because 1976 was not an ordinary year for the United States Mint. It was the 200th anniversary of American independence. A year when patriotic demand for coins surged, collectors hoarded bicentennial designs, production quotas skyrocketed, and mint facilities were pushed to their absolute limits, especially at the Denver Mint, where millions upon millions of coins were struck at relentless speed. And when speed meets aging machinery, human fatigue, experimental alloys, and unprecedented demand, errors are no longer accidents, they become inevitable. And the humble Lincoln cent of 1976 found itself at the center of this storm. Because while attention was focused on bicentennial quarters, half dollars, and dollars, the penny quietly continued production under immense pressure, often overlooked, often rushed, and that neglect is exactly how legendary mistakes slip into circulation. One of the most powerful value drivers behind the 1976 cent legend is the possibility of extreme double die errors, created when dies were improperly aligned during the hubbing process, and while minor doubling is common. A bold double die with dramatic separation on the date, Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and Lincoln's profile would instantly place a coin into elite territory, and if such a double die exists in pristine condition, especially one never officially cataloged, its value would be driven not just by rarity, but by shock, because new discoveries rewrite numismatic history, and collectors will pay extraordinary sums to own the first and finest known example. But doubling is only one layer of this mystery, because the bicentennial era also coincided with ongoing experiments in metal composition as copper prices continue to rise. And although the official switch to copper-plated zinc wouldn't happen until 1982, the Mint was already testing alternative materials and planchets during the mid-1970s, meaning that wrong metal strikes are a very real possibility. And a 1976 penny struck on an experimental alloy, a zinc-based test planchet, or even an aluminum blank would be one of the rarest transitional errors imaginable. A coin that represents a secret chapter in the evolution of American money. And such coins are valued not in thousands or hundreds of thousands, but in millions, because they should not exist. And yet, history proves that the mint's walls are not impenetrable. And then, there are off-metal errors, where a cent design is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even another country, a mistake that creates a physically impossible object. And if a 1976 Lincoln cent were struck on a dime, quarter, or foreign planchet during the height of bicentennial chaos, it would instantly become a numismatic unicorn, because the Denver Mint was producing massive volumes not only for domestic circulation but also for international contracts, increasing the chances of planchet mix-ups, and such errors are considered crown jewels by elite collectors, especially when tied to a historic year like 1976. But perhaps the most dramatic and visually stunning possibilities come from catastrophic die failures, massive die cracks, cuds, breaks, and retained breaks that distort the coin's surface in ways that look almost sculptural. And while small cracks are common, a massive die failure that dramatically alters Lincoln's portrait or the fields of the coin would be breathtaking. and if paired with a high-grade strike, the value multiplies exponentially, because condition is king in the numismatic world, and a flawless or near-flawless error coin is the ultimate prize, pushing valuations into eight-figure territory, and the $38 million figure associated with the 1976 cent is not a random fantasy number. It represents what happens when extreme rarity, historical importance, visual impact, and perfect preservation collide, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the chance to own something no one else can, a piece that becomes the centerpiece of an entire collection, a story that will be told for generations. And what makes this legend even more thrilling is that the 1976 penny was released into everyday circulation, meaning that unlike ancient gold coins locked behind museum glass, this potential fortune could still be hiding in plain sight, resting in old coffee cans, forgotten rolls, inherited jars, or childhood collections that were never examined closely. And every year new discoveries prove that the book of American coinage is not finished, that new chapters can still be written by ordinary people who take the time to look closer, weigh their coins, study the details, and question what they've always assumed was worthless. And the story of the 1976 1-cent coin reminds us that value is not always obvious, that history often disguises itself as spare change, and that the smallest denomination can carry the biggest surprise. So the next time you see a worn brown penny dated 1976 with a small demon mark, remember that under the right circumstances, with the right errors and the right history behind it, that single cent could be worth $38 million. And if stories like this ignite your curiosity and keep you searching for hidden treasure, stay with the channel, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of a penny.